Howdy, and welcome to Triple Dummy, the long-awaited return. It's been a while, back by popular demand. I am joined from the original crew with Nick Jacob, and new host is Susan Humphries. Susan Humphries is a multiple national rep. She has represented both New Zealand and Australia, and currently on the Australian women's team. Howdy, everyone. How's it going?
Hey, Pete. Yeah, it's going great. Thank you. Good to be back. Welcome, Susan.
Thanks for the welcome. Glad to join you both.
So today what we're going to talk about is AJ and the Gold Coast story. The Gold Coast Congress has just happened pretty recently. Just cover some of the details about there. It's a pretty exciting event. And then we also wanted to talk about quitting Bridge and returning to Bridge. In particular, Nick had a big hiatus from Bridge for a couple of years. And then talking about building partnerships. And then we've got a triple dummy hand of the week. But for starters, jumping into Gold Coast, quite an exciting event. Nick was actually the runner-up in a really exciting final. And
very exciting.
Yeah.
How would you describe
it? Yeah, really exciting. It was a bit surreal, honestly. For those who didn't know, we didn't quite lead the whole way. But we were up by 30 imps with 3 boards to go, and we proceeded to lose the match by 12, which took some doing. And it wasn't just one table; it was both tables contributing, and so it was quite riveting, I think, for a lot of people watching. The bridge wasn't the best quality at times, but it was. I mean, it's good to play in a close final. It's a lot better to lose narrowly than it is to get blown out. I'm glad it was good viewing.
It was definitely good viewing. We had 20 people over watching the Gold Coast, and we were all glued to the telly.
Yeah, so I think it didn't really, because when you're playing, you obviously don't know what's happening. And although we knew that our last 3 boards were not good results, we didn't really know what was happening or how close the match was going into that. We did feel like we had the better of our set, and so we were feeling pretty confident, but then, the last 3 boards happened, and it was like, okay, well, the match is still alive. I got the awful wait. So I think it probably was harder for people like Ella, my wife watching, having to see it all unfold. Whereas for me, it's kind of not the end of the world. And at least as well, losing to friends is okay too. It was really, the spirit of the match was very good. Lots of really good friends on that team. And
so for those that don't know, the actual winning team was Nabil Edgerton, Ashley Bark, Michael Wibley, Matthew Brown, and Alex Antonius, known as AJ. AJ has been playing for 3 months and then managed to join the top-seeded team, and he played his share of the boards. And
definitely
managed to win, which is just mind-blowing. Can anyone remember what it was like playing bridge after 3 months?
No.
So
what's forcing, what's not forcing, I have no clue.
Is just a friend of Nabil Edgerton. He was a poker playing friend of Nabil. Nabil was like, I think he's got the right attitude for the game. And I was like, all right,
definitely.
I'm going to take you under my wing and teach you how to play. And they always had the Gold Coast in mind for the Congress that they were going to go for. And I think the idea was get him in there, he'll get absolutely beaten up, and that will drive him forward into wanting to become the bridge player he can. And then they just won. Which, just so people understand, he had 0.18 total master points before playing the Gold Coast Congress.
And now he can trial for Australia with the PQPs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they're the winning team. Nick, do you want to run us through your team?
Yeah, so I was playing with Michael Weir, and our teammates were Gayo Tisleval and Taya Lee. Gayo, they're both Norwegian, but Gayo has been a Kiwi for about the past 10 years, been a mainstay of the New Zealand Open team. And he and I have just started playing together a bit more regularly as well, but we weren't playing together this event. And our other teammates were Max Hembest and Dave Wiltshire, who've done very well in Australian events and trialled for Australia a few times. And yeah, they were really good. We sort of didn't feel like we were in good shape to qualify on the last day, but we're lucky enough to get through. But yeah, Max and Dave were very solid throughout. And yeah, we needed them to be, because neither Michael and I nor Gayo and Taya are regular partnerships. And in long events, your agreements always get found out at some points.
Even the last three boards.
Even the last three boards, yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't have minded just losing a couple of imps on those boards, but yeah, double digits, 3 boards in a row was just a little bit too much.
So, Susan, how did you enjoy Gold Coast? What was your Gold Coast experience?
Oh, I had a great Gold Coast. I was able to play with Michael Woodley in the pairs, and it was learned a lot from him. And then Jessica and I joined the boys on a team. So
the boys,
Liam,
yep.
Liam and my partner, and he played with James Coots. And then Shane Harrison was playing with Kevin Rosenberg from the States. So we had high hopes for the event, but as bridge goes, it doesn't always go to plan. So we missed out on qualifying. We came 11th. So, but
where were you running with the day to go? Were you in it?
Pardon me?
Where were you with a day to go? Were you?
Oh, we were qualifying with the day to go. We were qualifying after the first match of the last day and the second match of the last day. But sadly, the third match that day, we got crunched by the South Africans.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we had no hope of qualifying after that, basically.
No. So it's Gold Coast is an awesome event, but it's a really difficult one, because there's 230 teams, and you have to be in the top 6. And there's 20 teams that can easily make that top 6, and it's just timing it. But it's a super well run event.
The music stopped at the wrong time for us. So.
Our team, though, managed to time it perfectly. We're in the top 6
You did
once,
time it perfectly.
and that was at the end, the final match. Yeah, we got in there. We basically didn't play any tough seeds until the final match, where we drew Team 1 and beat them to jump into the top 6. Yes! So, yeah. Basically, Gold Coast is an awesome event. If anyone hasn't ever played it, strongly recommend it. Heaps of talented players, super well run, awesome location. So give it a shot if you haven't.
Yeah.
Do you two agree?
Yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah,
definitely.
But yeah, so that was Gold Coast, and props to AJ for taking out, winning the Gold Coast after only playing 3 months. Is just an incredible feat that I really don't know how it was done. But yeah, we'll move on to our second topic that we wanted to talk about, which was quitting and returning to bridge. Nick's actually had a hiatus, but have you ever had one, Susan?
No, I'm hooked.
What makes you keep playing?
Oh, I just love it. The challenge, the hype, the friends, the people. Yeah, logic and the problem solving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to be sneaky, a bit naughty.
Yeah. I get that. Like, I love like just the sneaky plays and just watching them. Like, yeah, they keep me hooked. But
Yeah.
you took a break, Nick. What was the driving force behind that?
I did.
And what made you come back?
So I've taken a few breaks throughout my bridge career. What I find is that I get burnt out. And often it coincides with either not having a stable partnership or coming to the end of a stable partnership, and because I feel like the game's not as exciting when you don't have someone who you're working with to become better and to improve your agreements and to work out how to be the best partnership you can be, because I think we're all kind of aware of what we can do personally for ourselves to improve as bridge players, but I think once you get to the higher levels, it's a lot more consistent, consistently enjoyable as well to be playing with someone with whom you have really strong agreements, and it's not just about agreements, but you share the same philosophy in bridge. You want to play the game the same way, you want to play it the right way, and I felt like I didn't really have that, and I was also getting a bit burnt out on the professional scene. So we're traveling a lot to play with clients, and I was very lucky. Like my clients have been lovely. I haven't had any issues. I know some pros have had nightmare clients, and I've never had that at all. It's just that I find it's a very different style of bridge. I just want to be competing against the best and testing myself and trying to get better. And maybe a bit of a tangent, but I feel pretty strongly about that breaks are quite healthy in bridge, because you compare it to other hobbies, sports, other pastimes, and let's say you're a football player, you might get to your mid to late 30s and you can't compete at the level that you used to anymore. You might still compete at a lower level, but your body just physically can't handle it. And I mean, you can certainly peak in bridge, but you can just like Benito Garozzo was like, I don't know if he's still playing or if he's even still alive, but he was in his 90s playing, nationals and stuff. And it's, this is a guy who...
As late as 2017 in Lyon, he played the World Championship there.
Pretty amazing.
I presume we would have heard if he passed away. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yes, he is alive and still playing. Because I'm very sure I would have heard otherwise. But as recent as 2017, he was playing in the Bermuda Bowl.
Pretty amazing.
That's fantastic. Let's hope all three of us can do that.
I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to be long retired by then.
Oh no, I want to do it.
Yeah, I know you do.
Well, even just having the ability to, be competitive at the club at something at that age would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, there aren't really any seasons in bridge either. If you wanted to, you could just play bridge just all year round for forever until you die, basically.
Susan Street.
And yeah. And yeah, it's good, but yeah, if you can do that, then that's really good. But I've learnt that I can't do that. You know, I have to take regular breaks. Otherwise, I get burnt out. I play badly. I get grumpy with my partners, and it's just it's no good.
Yeah, I don't think I could actually do it day in, day out either. So, yeah, I don't think, I love the game. I love to earn some money from the game. I love to compete and win, but I don't want to be reliant. I think you'd lose a bit of the love of it if it was, you had to do it to make a living. But
yeah.
I know some people do, and I know they like it, but not for me.
I think it depends on the niche that you have as well. I think generic, sorry, not generic professional, but the sort of professional whereby you go to the clubs and play with clients all the time. I think that would burn me out. But I mean, Pete, you've carved out a pretty decent and very different niche to most other bridge professionals.
You mean they don't all do this, where they just talk about bridge and record stuff and just...
Yes, they have teaching sessions from home, online. It's good. It makes a lot of sense. So no, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool what things you got going on.
What made you come back to the game?
Good question.
Who twisted your arm?
There was a little bit of twisting from Gayo. He, said that he'd been interested in setting up a partnership, and that wasn't, I didn't just jump at the opportunity because there's a lot involved in starting a partnership. I wanted to make sure that I was committing to the right thing before I did commit. But primarily why I came back was not so much, Gayo, that was more the opportunity that sparked it. What really brought me back was that after a couple of years of, sort of my first, second and third priorities being my kids and my family, I wanted something more for myself, that I could put my energy into and just achieve something, that I could feel good about for myself. And, because I, chose to invest most of my teens and all of my 20s into bridge, I didn't have anything quick to jump into, so I thought, all right, well, I still love the game. That never stopped. Let's give it a go.
Yeah. How much did you keep tabs on it while you were...
Oh, yeah, all the time. I kept talking bridge. I kept, I was still seeing all my bridge friends or talking to them whenever I had the chance. And
we were still picking your brain for system help and that kind of thing as well. So I've never stopped enjoying thinking about bridge. I think that's the one thing that will always keep me somewhat involved in bridge. If I do stop enjoying thinking about it, then that's going to be the end, basically. Just one thing on that.
Yeah.
I know all of us probably had bridge dreams, but AJ said he had his first one at the Gold Coast Congress as well. So that's how hooked he is. So it's really good. He said,
that's
I
good.
had 20 cards or something. The director wouldn't let me.
Very common. Always some stuff that doesn't make sense, like you play in the wrong direction or someone leads out of turn and no one picks up on it.
Just do stuff that hurts your head. Then you start screaming at yourself and
it is good. It's really funny.
So one last note on that is currently I've got hearing some of the sort of older ex-youth players that are thinking of just stopping. I'm not sure if they're going to take a hiatus or whatnot, but it's pretty common that there's a lot of just sort of ex-youth players that are, I guess, getting into the real world or anything. Do you reckon there's anything that could be done to help them just stay in it? I think lots of people feel like they're either fully in or they have to just not play because of the high competitive level that they're used to. But any thoughts on something that would allow you to do a bit of both?
So I think it depends on. I mean, obviously it depends on your life situation, but actually I think your relationship is a big part of it. You know, if you're part of a, because normally what happens is bridge players, start a family or start working on their career, and the combination of those things makes it really hard to stay involved in bridge. But I think it is a lot more possible if you. If you and your life partner are both into bridge, because you both understand that you can't always be doing bridge all the time if you've got kids around, career to take care of and so on. But you know what it takes. So if one person says, "Yeah, I want to have a go this year," then you can say, "Yep, all right, I'll pick up some of the slack," and you give it a crack. And I think if you don't have a life partner who's as into bridge as you are, or not into bridge at all, it's very challenging, because how do you explain to someone, we've got 2 young kids at home or whatever, by the way, I'd like 3 weeks to go to the World Champs, 2 weeks to go to the Asia Pacific Championships, and 6 more weeks to actually play enough
play
to
the
qualify.
nationals.
And they're like, excuse me, you see this ring on my finger? So I think it does depend on your life situation quite a lot.
You got any thoughts, Susan?
Oh, not really. I was just thinking, keep involved in the chat and that kind of thing. And if there is an event on in your area, come along and see it. Anyway, just to catch up and hear what people have done on certain hands. I know when we go down to Canberra, we catch up with Griff Ware kind of, regularly. And he doesn't play as much now, but he still loves the game. So,
Awesome. So moving on to the next one, which was we're going to talk about building partnerships, and Nick's in the process of starting a new one, but you have an awesome partnership with Jess Brake going, Susan. So what have
I'm
you
very lucky
and
girl.
Jess done to build your partnership?
I think be open with each other and stuff as well. I hadn't played 2 over 1. Well, competitively, I played at the club and that kind of stuff, but to build the partnership and the system, that was really important. And, I think there's bits of the system I like, there's bits of the system she likes, and just kind of just gelling with that. But also, I think, keeping it simple to start with and then adding layers is best. I keep asking her, I can't remember what, certain thing is, and then I've just come up with ways to remember it myself, like some really silly things, but if the opponents have shown 2 suits and we bid their suit, are we showing or are we asking? And we ask, and I was like, okay, ask becomes before show, so A before S, and that's how I remember that one. And then I've got other things in the system where it's all alphabetical as well, so that's just how I remember it.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah. But, a lot of BBO bidding to start with. I think that was really good. And also the understanding that you're not going to go, you're not going to win straight away. There's one good thing to kind of realise. Also, I think the honeymoon phase kind of comes and goes as well. So kind of getting over that. But we made a really kind of effort, I guess, not to say anything at the table, because we all know when someone's stuffed up, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, right? And we're a team. We don't need to show the other team that we've stuffed up. I mean, they know as well, right? They're just licking their lips when it happens. So, yeah. So next board, let's refocus. So, yeah, I think that's really important.
Do you have like a designated time that you do talk about the mistakes that you made? Like,
we normally get a third party to go over the hands with us. We get Andy Hung's been good with that, or Liam and Shane have also been good. But it's more just, I guess, for both of us, we're not, 100% on what is the correct bid or in certain situations. So we want to hear from a lot of people. We ask a lot of questions, and then, you'll find out that, half the people play it this way, half the people play it that way. What's going to work best for us? What are we going to remember? What's more consistent with our system? So, yeah. I mean, yeah. I just, we've been lucky to both travel and play bridge all over the world, and so it's not just people in New Zealand and Australia that are helping us. It's people all over. I was having a chat with Sylvia Shi at the Sanya Bridge tournament in China last year, and she was going on about an auction. Is this a reverse or is this just non-forcing or whatever? I think the auction, from memory, was a club, they overcall a spade, partner doubles, they pass, and you bid 2 diamonds. So you've gone past your 2 clubs, and you haven't bid 2 hearts, which is kind of like partners suit. So is it a reverse? And she was kind of adamant that it was. I honestly had no idea. So, yeah, we confirmed that. And then Jessica and I actually used it in the playoffs to bid a slam in 6 clubs. So I sent her a, thank you so much message for, it's actually worked. That's how we've, stuff like that. You've got to learn it through talking and through thinking. You can't just, well, for me, I can't just read it somewhere and then pick it up. So,
yeah. I find it's like really important to have like a good group that like just discusses bridge, because the amount of problems that you actually get exposed to just by playing bridge isn't that high compared to what there is. But then like you have these discussions of, I had this weird thought, what would this bid be? Or like, if I play this card in this situation, what's that actually mean? Because I have no idea. And like, you need like a good group to like bounce ideas off, so you don't just make like random agreements in spots, because someone else has actually thought of these things and worked it out. So it's good to have those sorts of...
Yeah. Also, like, I mean, there's so many ways of showing a hand. If you go through route A, B, or C, what's the small inference that is different on all those options? So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Have you...
Yeah, because you don't want...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you don't want to try reinventing the wheel,
God, no.
It's, a lot of these auctions have, and not just auctions, you see it in especially defensive situations as well.
Yeah.
Where, you might return the 5th card, or you might return a high card from 4 or something, and you wouldn't ever know to do that unless, either you saw the problem and the solution, or easier, by talking to people who have been in that position. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've said this on Triple Dummy in the past, but I mean, I had a, when I was, trying to absorb as much as I could, trying to find as much as I could about bridge from the internet, my number one resource was a little bookmark on my internet browser that was find Justin Lyle's content on VBO forums.
Yeah, he's a good one. He's helped me out a lot.
Because he's incredibly smart, incredibly good at bridge, and very good at articulating his ideas. Yeah. And I just felt like I'd just be like, every week or so I'd just click on find Justin's content and just absorb, just like take it all in,
Yeah. With building your partnership, Susan, how much do you discuss with Jess stuff about style? Would you preempt on this hand, or what would you lead from
definitely.
this hand?
Definitely. Yeah. We talk about all that kind of stuff endlessly, and it's really Jess is known to be a passer. She's known to be conservative, so she's surprising me every day with opening a 4-card suit in third, and bidding one more and all that kind of stuff. So it's really really cool to see. So I think you have to have enjoyment from sitting across from the person you're playing with as well. So
yeah,
or else it just becomes a chore, or you don't want that. Yeah.
So Nick, you've been coming back to bridge. You're starting a partnership with Gayo. What do you reckon is important for getting a partnership started?
Yeah, so we probably talked for about how long? Probably at least 20 hours before actually playing not even playing a card, but bidding on VBO at all. We don't even do much bidding on VBO, but we spend a large amount of time talking and writing up notes and sending them to each other and stuff, because I felt especially when you're building something from scratch, it's important to get the sort of big questions sorted out first. So what's how and things like how aggressive our opening style is and so on. They can be a little bit generic, but you do kind of get an idea for someone's tendencies in otherwise unrelated options by just having a thorough understanding of style. We talked for a long time about how we wanted to play, what sort of level of agreements we would like to get to, and obviously it's easy to be very optimistic or just say yes to everything at the start, because it's you've got that inspiration and it's easy to be motivated. But I think we'd both had quite a bit of experience of what had worked and what hadn't worked in our partnerships, so we were sort of a bit more realistic about what we could achieve and how long it would take and so on. We and still even now we still talk about bridge and write sort of notes and stuff a lot more than we actually play cards together. And I think it's been good. I mean, I've got a little folder, on my computer. It's just bridge Gayo, and it's just got just dozens of documents and stuff about kind of these things that we've thought have been important. And obviously it's not just you don't just make an agreement and write a note and then that's it. It's you have to practice these things as well and see how they work in practice, and also just see how see if they fit for the partnership as well.
Have there been any things where you like, let's do this, and then like you tested it, and like, actually, I'm gonna forget that when it comes to actually playing, or like, you said yes, and then like you start delving into like the complexity of this is just like, can we tone that back? Has there been any of that sort of stuff?
A little bit. Yeah, we've a couple of our sequences, like the game forcing major raise and inverted minor sequences. Those ones we've had to kind of fine tune a little bit, you know, because I mean, I'm sort of a scientist by nature. I mean, I'm in terms of bridge agreements. Like I like to have, you know, maybe not necessarily the perfect agreement, but you know, agreements that really fit and really fine tuned. And I knew that, you know, Gaio was a bit more old school. He likes things to be familiar, intuitive, and so on. So that was probably the biggest area where we had to meet up. You know, like all the competitive bidding and all the defensive and stuff, we were just on the same page from trip one, basically. But yeah, it's the non-competitive options, you know, especially with slam interest and so on, that we need, you know, to be a bit more careful. And so I think we've come up with some structures that, I mean, neither of us have played these structures with anyone else. So, you know, we don't have that grounding. Yeah, exactly. But they kind of fulfill our design philosophies, as well as being, you know, maybe not too simple, but hopefully simple enough to remember. And yeah, I have suggested, you know, to Gaio that we're happy to prune stuff down, but you know, he's working really hard to remember it all when he wants to, you know. And I think with more experience, you know, we won't have these kind of system forgets.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is tricky. It's really tricky because an auction like, you know, major pass, Tuna Trump, pass, like, assuming that Tuna Trump is game forcing major raise, I mean, that might not even come up at a tournament, you know?
Yeah.
Because other people are bidding all the time, or, you know, you don't want to make the Tuna Trump bid on a certain hand or whatever. It's just, so you can put a lot of effort into these non-competitive sequences that is maybe better spent on more kind of practical options. But the problem is that, I mean, we're all playing imps. We're all, you know, for the most part, we're trying to do well in teams events, and so slam hands do pay quite a lot, you know, if you can get them right.
I heard it's good to have all the aces when you bid Grand Slam.
Yeah. I don't know anything about that. I mean, yeah, I didn't see much. I typically don't see much of what my teammates are doing. I'm like, not that I don't care, obviously, but I care, but I let them do their thing. I've got trust in them. But you know, Mikey and I really struggled with slam bidding quite a lot. You know, there were, you know, we missed some good ones. We bid a lot that went down, mostly in the pairs, but yeah, slam bidding's so hard, especially without really good agreements.
How much do either, like, both of you put effort into, like, when discussing a convention, like, all the random interference that you get? Like, if you're discussing a convention, do you discuss it and then just the basics, or do you actually really delve into, like, lots of different interference, like doubles and overcalls or things like that? Like, where on that spectrum would each of you put yourself? Susan, what do you reckon?
I'm getting better at that. Yeah, basically, when Jess and I first started playing, Liam gave us a competitive auction worksheet, I guess, and I've actually just stuck that all into our system, so it's just part of our notes now. But it's basically what happens if someone interferes over Bergen, what happens if someone interferes over Stamen, transfers, you know, what if they double a splinter, all that kind of stuff, and what happens if we double a splinter, and yeah. And it's not just what is, pass and double, and it's what happens next as well, that is so important.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Basically, if I'm playing in a serious partnership, then it's not so much that I refuse to play something, but I'm very resistant to playing anything until we've discussed when it applies, what the implications of it are, how we deal with competition, whether it even applies in competition or not, and also what other options can it be generically applied to. Because I feel like adding, one little piece of system for one option is not very efficient if you're not going to, if you're not, like something like Muppets Damon, right? I know a lot of people play Muppets Damon where you open Tuna Trump, it's 3 clubs, and we're asking for 5-card majors, and now you bid 3 hearts to say, I don't have a 5-card major, I don't have a 4-card major, and now you play, like, say, 3 spades, transfers to 3 in a trump, and 3 in a trump shows 5 spades, and a, non-forcing hand sort of thing. So for me, like, that option is, like, really, like, that sort of treatment is really dangerous because, like, I can't see why it would apply in competition. Like, say, they open 2 hearts, and you bid 2 in a trump. Like, we obviously can't play Muppet now. There's no point. There's no point to it. Similarly, it might even not apply over like a 2-diamond opening to a trump, or and as well, like you look at this hand like, oh yeah, you can play the right game with 5 spades, 4 hearts. Well, but now you also have to play that over 3 hearts, 4 clubs plus show 5 spades, 4 hearts, unless you're going to do some other kind of suboptimal thing by transferring to spades first. So for me, like that sort of, and that sort of convention is not kind of what sort of fits in my kind of philosophy, I guess. Similar to kickback, honestly. Like, I mean, I know everyone plays kickback, but it's like it can be important. But there are some really nice options you can have without kickback. You've got hearts agreed, and you don't want a key card because you've got only key cards, so you want partner key card, right? But unfortunately, partner signs off in 4 hearts. If you're playing kickback, you kind of just have to bid key card, right? But if you're playing key card, you can bid 4 spades, and part of it's 4 in a trump, and like you're not worried because you've manoeuvred the auction. And also, but I mean, aside from that sort of thing, like a kickback option where you don't know whether it applies, which suit the kickback is, because sometimes like let's say you've agreed clubs, but both partners have bid diamonds and hearts, so it's like maybe 4 diamonds is natural, not kickback. Maybe 4 hearts is natural, not kickback. So maybe 4 spades is kickback for clubs in this one specific position. It's like, I'd rather just not, It's just, how about we just don't do that?
Yeah, so I think if you ever play minor wood or kickback, you need serious agreements about when it's not. Like, my worst nightmare is when someone goes, how about we just play minor wood? And I'm like, how about we don't? You can, and it can win you imps, but you have to get like this auction, like there's so many of them right, compared to the amount of times I've heard opponents go, oh, sorry, I thought that was minor wood.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to play in 4 of a minor guy.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, man.
Anyway, we'll move on to the triple dummy hand. This was suggested by Nick, who was in the final. So, Nick, how about you run us through it? And I'll try and make it a bit bigger.
Yep, all good. So, this hand I thought was very interesting. It wasn't I mean, there was a little bit of interest in the play in the auction. Oh, sorry, the defence in the auction. However, it was really interesting as a declare play hand, and so Michael Whibley was declaring it. Obviously, a fantastic declarer, and so he heard the option go 2 spades by me on his left, pass to him, and he was unfavourable. So he basically knew as soon as I opened 2 spades that I was very likely to have 5 cards, almost certainly. And the fact that Mikey hadn't raised two spades to 3 spades as well suggested that some spade length and maybe some spade strength would go down in dummy. So he bid turn a trump to get the value of his hand across. And of course, Matt raised to 3 and a trump. He didn't bother with Stayman or anything because he had, Jack third spade, flat hand, extra points. It looks like a fine decision. And even though Michael was off 5 spade tricks, I did not let the spade trick on, which happens, surprisingly often, I'd say.
Yep.
You hit no raise, and you've only got a 5-card suit, so you look elsewhere, basically, depending on the suit quality. And with him, with North-South having the Jack and 10 of spades, he knew that he obviously didn't know about the Jack of spades, but it was quite likely that my suit was going to be a little bit broken. So I led a heart, an attitude heart, and dummy came down, and if we're looking very simply, we see that Declarer has 2 heart tricks, 3 diamond tricks is 5, 3 club tricks is 8, and if the Jack of clubs comes down doubled in or clubs break 3-3, then he will have 4 club tricks as well. So you might think, what's the problem? Just, we can try the 10 of hearts, see if that holds. If it does, problem over. Otherwise, you can just test clubs. Michael looked more deeply into this and decided to try and get a count on the hand. So he played the 10 of hearts at trick 1, which wasn't clear, but I think it's okay. He obviously couldn't. Well, an option was to duck the heart completely and then try and pick up hearts, but obviously a spade switch would
too risky for a spade switch.
Yeah, it's kind of. I don't think it's as risky as it seems though, because is Mikey ever going to switch to a spade from King X or Queen X? Looking at Jack third and dummy, probably not, right? He'd probably just play a heart back. However, on this hand with Ace X of spades, he almost certainly would have continued to switch to spades, so that would not have been successful. So he won the King of Hearts and proceeded to cash 2 top diamonds. And on the second diamond, I threw an encouraging spade, and Mikey followed high suit preference for spades. So again, now he's thinking, okay, well they no longer have 5 spade tricks. They only have 4 spade tricks because the read hasn't changed. I still have 5 spades. I've thrown my first spade away. And why have I thrown my spade? Probably because I have something to guard in clubs and hearts. So he decided to play a spade himself to cut some communication. I won with the 8 and played another spade to Mikey's ace. And now Mikey continued the 9 of hearts, which I covered with the jack. And so Michael had to win the ace because I still had 2 spade tricks in my hand. So if he leaves me on play with the jack of hearts, I'm going to cash them for down 1. So he perforce wins the ace of hearts, and now he knows that either I'm 5-3-1-4 or 5-4-1-3. There's no entry to Mikey's hand, except with maybe the 8 of hearts. But I mean, it's unlikely that I would have played the jack of hearts on the 9. But anyway, he cashed the queen of diamonds now, and I had to find another pitch. And again, I was very reluctant to throw a club because, based on the point count, I knew that Michael had at least, either like the ace jack to 5 clubs, or he had ace queen to 4 clubs. And so the only cards my partner could have were either queen x of clubs or jack third of clubs. And I knew that throwing a club would just give away the position, whichever it was. So I threw away a spade because it was basically the card that I was known to hold. Didn't really help him in any way. And now Michael had a guess. If I did have 5-3-1-4, then he, with the presumed 8 of hearts, then it was going to be completely safe for him to come out a heart. He would be building his 9th trick, and I would not have enough tricks to cash. And that way he'd be fine regardless of whether I had the jack of clubs or not. He wouldn't have to finesse clubs, which he actually couldn't do at this stage anyway because of the entry situation. So yeah, it was a tough position for him to guess. I mean, there are a few things that led him to exit this heart. One, I'm much more likely to open 2 spades if I have 5-3-1-4 rather than 5-4-1-3. It may not be true for everyone, but I mean, Wibbly knows me very well. We've talked about a lot of hands, and he knows that I don't overly like preempting with both majors. Also, if I was 5-3-1-4, then my defensive plays would have been relatively straightforward. I wouldn't really have much option at any point. Whereas if I was 5-4-1-3, then it is a bit more complicated. I might have thrown a heart, which might not have, which I might not have thought was important, but which was important for giving Michael a count on the hand. Similarly, I could have easily thrown a club away from 3 low. So I think he took probably the percentage line and came out a heart. But unfortunately for him, I had the 4th heart, so I was able to cash 2 hearts and a spade for down 1. And I know that when you're watching view graph, you're not quite as involved in the hand as you are when you're playing or defending. I mean, it's not to say that
we can see the jack third club.
Yeah, exactly.
Clubs are falling.
I know.
Come on.
Exactly, and
I thought he was so lucky not to get the spade lead, and then all of a sudden this hand just went into another universe of thinking that I wasn't, even near considering.
Yeah, and it took someone like Michael, being really at the table, really present, to look really deeply into it and think about getting the count on the hand, and then realizing it's safe to let me in, and then finally getting to a position where he was actually, able to make, an almost impossible hand, which would have, he would have been up for like a IPBA award if I had the 5-3-1-4, I think. But, everyone's looking at it and thinking, oh, well, where can an extra trick possibly come from, It can only come from clubs. Just play clubs. And, on this time, and that's effectively what happened at the other table, but there was very different information, so it wasn't quite the same consideration. Not the same considerations involved. But, yeah, it was, I think, probably the most interesting hand. Because don't get me wrong, there were lots of mistakes. Not so much this hand. I think this hand was played and defended pretty well. But throughout the final, it was just a slugfest. There were massive, mistakes on one board, and then suddenly the other team making a mistake on another board.
But do you find that normally happens at the end of a long week? And
Yeah, it's so I hear about this all the time, and it is somewhat true that the longer the matches, the more you can get away with making mistakes because you've got longer to catch it up. I don't think fatigue was an issue really for anyone. I think it was more just that the styles of bridge we were playing was, for the most part, incredibly aggressive in competition. Both teams. We were both bidding quite a lot, putting pressure on, and when every board is challenging, you're not just getting these kind of normal, boring 1-no pass 3-no hands. You are going to get more mistakes because there's just more opportunities and more opportunities to do good things and bad things. So, and we saw it right at the end. The hands were interesting. The hands were really fascinating. Yeah. So I think, although, and actually, there could have been more. There were, I think, at the end of the third set, there were like 2 boards where both Mikey and I and Nabil and Ash just completely screwed up. Just failed to bid, completely normal game sort of thing. And they were flat boards. We both did the same things. So it was like this wild match could have been even more wild,
So I got a couple of questions about this hand.
Sure.
So first of all, why did you choose to preempt on this particular one? So you mentioned that Whibley you don't like, but what about this one made you want to do it?
Yep. So very good quality of spades. King Queen 9-8 was really nice. The other thing is that I felt that for me and Mikey, our partnership had been going better when we were taking the initiative. It was, some of the harder boards were when, we were kind of having these constructive options to ourselves, or we were getting bullied.
Getting left alone.
Yeah, we're getting left alone, exactly. And also options where we had the balance of points, with the balance of power, and we're getting pushed around in return. And so, if I was playing with Gaia, I would not have opened this hand. But that's just because of the partnership considerations, I think. I sort of knew that I was probably taking a slightly inferior position, but it wasn't hugely inferior. And I just felt like it was working a lot better for us in this event, playing this sort of style. So, yeah. So it was kind of lucky that I had Whibley on my right, who could draw all the inferences.
So, question number 2 I've got like 5 of them for this hand. Let's say you did have King Queen 9-8 fifth, Jack third, stiff, Jack fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be leading a heart here, or would you want a club or a spade?
Good question. I would probably still be looking towards either a heart or a club. However, there's that slight heart bias because they haven't used Stamen. They didn't write it. Michael over called 2-no trump rather than 3 hearts. He's more likely to have a 5-card minor and with his 2-no trump bid. Assuming that he's just kind of got a normal hand. Like if he's got ace and 1 spade or something, he might not be in a rush to bid 2-no trump, but he's got 5 hearts. However, like if it were 2-5-4-2, he'd always bid 3 hearts. If he had 2-2-4-5, then he'd probably always bid 2-no trump. So, I'm not entirely sure. I can't really answer that either. I don't know how likely I'd be to lead a heart from Jack third. I'd probably not like. So maybe that was an inference there.
Final inference thing that I was going to ask. You said you lead attitude. I don't lead that much attitude, so I'm not sure. But let's say you had Jack 8-4 and you had King Queen 9-8 fifth spade. Would you not be leading the 8 of hearts?
So it depends on partnership. If I was playing with Glenn, then I would lead the 8 of hearts. But with Gaio and Mikey, they're more kind of, I guess, old school attitude, which is not so much, I really like, you lead the lowest one to say, I really like the suit, please continue it. It's more like, I have an honour, basically. The problem as well, like if you're going to lead the 8 of hearts on this auction, then Pana will often play you for, 8
Doubled in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just try and find his suit. So I think, I certainly, playing with Mikey, I certainly would have led the 4 of hearts from Jack 8-4, and with Gaio as well. But that is up to partnership agreement.
And one more. I think this is my last one, but I might come up with another one, which is, what do you reckon Mikey would do with, like, let's say Mikey had Queen 9 3rd heart. Would he not just continue at diamond when he knows he can set up his diamonds? Like, what club holdings would he not just, like, set up his diamonds when he has the heart entry?
Yeah, that is a very reasonable point too. I think that Mikey would have been aware that, we can't legitimately beat this contract. Like, there's, like these clubs are going to come home. The only thing is that, because Michael played Ace King of Diamonds, that he didn't have the non-club re-entry to his hand. I agree that is a good point.
If you had Jack 4th, which he kind of like, let's assume that Mikey didn't have the Jack of Clubs, and had another heart.
Yep.
He would know that Wibbs has 2 hearts and 3 diamonds is 5.
Yep.
And you're probably not going to have King, Queen of Spades, Jack of Hearts, and King of Clubs. So the only card that you can have is the Jack.
Yeah.
So if you had Jack 4th, the entries are done.
Yeah, that's true. That's true because Wibbly cashed the 2 top diamonds in his hand. Had he kept 1 top diamond in his hand, then he would have had that re-entry to take the club hook if that looked necessary. I agree with that as well. Like it's and actually on this hand, maybe Mikey could have played a diamond anyway. Sort of feigning like he's got the entry, but obviously it wouldn't have helped here because of the lack of entry. For Wibbs, he would have been end played into getting clubs right. But I mean, there are some interesting kind of things in this hand as well, because if Wibbs does start on clubs at this point, then the normal players go king of clubs, club to the ace, and now if Mikey plays the jack on that, then Wibbs has to decide whether to cross to the 10 of clubs and then end play me to give them a club trick, or to cash the queen of clubs, dropping
the rest of the clubs. Card.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
I've seen Adam Edgerton do that to good effect. I think it was, I can't remember where Adam hasn't played for quite a long time, so it would have been quite a few years ago. But yeah, it's a good one to remember. I'll try and get a better picture of this. But no, you're quite right. I mean, maybe the clues were there for Michael to get it right.
Super interesting hand, anyway.
Very.
Just watching it on ViewGraph, you'd be like, spades are cashing. They didn't cash spades. Clubs are dropping. Hooray! So nice deep dive. On that note, we might wrap it up. Thanks all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. And Susan, welcome. Hope you've enjoyed it and looking forward to doing more of these.
Yep. No, I really enjoyed it.
Cool.
It's going to be awesome.
Nick. And we'll try and do one next month. Thanks all for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.